I travelled to the US, my wife with 2 young boys were in their 4s and 5s. She allowed me, believe it or not, to have 6 weeks in the States to learn about growing maize. I couldn't believe the size of the market. I think today it's 350,000 tractors, and we have a market of 3,000 or 4,000 tractors. I only wish I was born in America, and here we are 40 years we are now, so that dream has now opened up, but it's a very big sandpit to play in.
That was a tough business because I think he was struggling to keep up with Kubota and some of the other emerging companies. So we'd sort of heard about what was happening in Korea, and there was 4 tractor manufacturers at that time in Korea. We visited all of them, and we stumbled upon Coyote or Dadong. That was by far and away the best choice out of Korea, and looked for other opportunities were there, and Landini and McCormick had approached us about doing Australia and New Zealand. We said, well, if we can take Coyote and Landini and McCormick to both markets, Australia and New Zealand, being in Australia might protect us in New Zealand in the future as well. We'd talked about it, and I'd spoken to Dad, and he was like, well, I'm not going to move country, and I was like, yeah, I'm keen to have a crack.
I had some very quick and direct experience with Craig, of course, because he was already entrenched in Australia and building up Australia, and very much in the mould of his dad. Great expertise at negotiating good deals for the franchise people and running the market.
I guess for over here it was an existing business. Over there it was up and coming, so everyone's putting in the hard yards to make it work. It did include everyone, yeah.
Because Australia was it literally was starting from scratch. We were in some small premises, and we were really bursting at the seams a few times as it grows, but it started to grow pretty rapidly, and the franchises grew. It was really exciting because we were basically knocking on doors and setting up dealers and trying to explain, what the hell a Korean tractor was and where did McCormick come from and all this type of thing. And obviously there's been a few changes. Landini and McCormick, from our perspective, made some poor decisions and didn't support the product, so we really had to find a stronger partner, and that's when we talked with Deutz about being our main line for a larger professional tractor. And there's still a lot of those people that we started with in the early days that are still there, so it's still got that same power farming culture.
We moved quickly to appoint a couple of senior people in the company, including Bruce Nixon, who was the antithesis, I think, of Jeff Maber. Often I played a bit of a role in arbitrating between them, to be honest, but it kind of worked because they had complementary skills.
I was floating around in Auckland at the time, and a recruiting guy I know rang me up and said, there's this guy down in Morrinsville that you might be worth talking to. And I said, I'm not moving to Morrinsville, I'm not moving to anywhere. And he said, look, just do me a favour, go and talk to this guy. Long story short, next minute I find myself signed up and working for Power Farming, and that probably comes to one of Jeff's attributes. He's a great salesman.
Next thing I know, I'm sitting in his office, him telling me the English are pretty laid back and hadn't had a good run with the English, but if I was keen, he'd give me a go. Dramatic moments, we've had some hard times when things haven't quite gone as we thought, but overall we kept coming out smelling of roses, and long may that continue.
Yeah, it was a huge pat on the back to be offered the joint venture, especially the first one.
I joined as joint venture partner and dealer principal for Power Farming Morrinsville, formerly Maber Motors.
It's an opportunity that we wouldn't have had with any other company.
We're left alone. You may as well say Power Farming is a silent partner. I guess as long as we're doing our job properly, that's what it should be like.
The thing I'm most grateful or most aware of in this business and from the Maber family in that is their willingness to give someone a length of rope. I think Jeff's more than happy to let people find their own style and find their own way of doing it. It's not a complete free rein, like there's a severe amount of accountability, there's a severe amount of pressure when things aren't going to plan. He's an amazing man at breaking you down and building you back up again.
In 2013, we were at head office, and that's when we had a discussion around the joint venture partnership thing to buy into the business. Since then, it's just been onwards and upwards.
I had a conversation with Jeff about the opportunity, and I didn't really think retail was a great idea, but after talking with Jeff, he talked me into it.
Being a JV for Power Farming has been pretty exciting. It's been an adventure. Not every day has been the same day.
I think with the expansion into the States and Craig's expansion into that country itself, that's really cemented ourselves as a global player and a global distributor. You look at the likes of PFG Australia and PFG America now, there's a model there that works quite well with suppliers.
I thought if they applied the Australian model in America, it was such a big market, you would only have to get a very small quantum of that market to be successful. And I thought it was very brave, quite frankly, of Craig to give up what was a very successful business he was creating in Australia to take that on in America.
So I'm not convinced in my own mind the business would have been ready 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years earlier. We're successful in America because of the things we've achieved in Australasia.
I think on the back of a successful Australian business, seeing what we did there, Deutz have given us the opportunity to have a go at America, where they'd struggled in the past. The reputation for Deutz up there, why it hadn't succeeded, is the backup and support hadn't been adequate enough to support the business properly, so dealers had not taken it on board. We were under the assumption if we could handle that side of it and prove to the dealers that we could do that well, then the future could be good. And we found a premises, found some staff, started doing a similar thing to what we did in Australia 20 years earlier, and knocking on doors and getting told to piss off, and some people will have a go at you, and originally set out to go up there for 2 or 3 years, and we ended up being up there for 6. So it's good to get the family back down under. My wife's Australian, so this is home for her, and I've lived here since 2002. So really, it's part of home for me as well.
It's gone from a New Zealand-based business with starting expansion into Australia, but it's now a genuine international business of scale and a very successful one.
There are room for private companies in this world. Most of our competitors, the Deeres and the C&Hs and the Massey's, are big public companies and run their own dealer networks, and most are companies, and you become a number. I think there is room for private enterprise. Well, we're proving that. Look at what we've grown. We're profitable. It's not a crime to be profitable. If you're not, you can't fund the business. We're investing huge amounts of money into new pasta facility in New Zealand.
The companies that we, same sector, same industry, a lot of those companies support the New Zealand market directly from Australia. We don't do that. We invest in New Zealand. We continue to invest in New Zealand, both at the retail level and the wholesale level. And the $8 million investment being spent across the way here for the new distribution centre is testament to that.
Have amazing facilities around the country, and we've got amazing people. We've got a training facility here in Morrinsville, so there's been considerable investment in not only the facilities, but we've got a top level trainer as well. So we bring all of the technical staff from around the country up to Morrinsville. This year we'll be doing 26 weeks of training.
Yeah, the other thing about the Mabers is being very successful, but the money gets reinvested back into the business. I mean, look at this building we're in. Look next door at the wholesale business there and the investment there. You go around the country or even offshore to America and in Australia. The money hasn't just been taken out and blown, right? These guys have reinvested that money back into the business over and over and over, and the strength of that balance sheet is strong because of that. The secret formula is energy and passion and the will to win and having fun. Like Jeff has always said, we've got to have fun, but to have fun, you've got to win.
He's an unbelievable man, knows his numbers backwards from this year, last year, 10 years ago, market share, figures, profitability. You can't not like the guy. He's very motivational in terms of what he's done, what he does.
Jeff's got a great philosophy. you need to enjoy what you're working at and what you're doing. And he also says, work hard, but make sure you play hard. So I think he taught us a couple of things. It's like, I'm always a bit of a joker. I see the funny side of life, always try to see the optimistic side of life. I think I learned that from Jeff. He is the born optimist.
Jeff, one word, motivational.
Well, I always say if Jeff was on the Titanic, it would never have sunk. He would have talked it up.
Yeah, and there have been many times when I've thought, you're crazy. You know, there's no way you can achieve that. I'm way more wrong than I'm right because we might not get to that point, but we've gone a lot further and achieved a lot more than I thought we would be able to do. If Jeff had a choice between selling one tractor and making $1,000 or selling 1,000 tractors and making $1 each, I personally would be ambivalent because they're essentially the same thing. But Jeff would choose the 1,000 tractor option every day because that's what excites him, that's what gets him out of bed. There, you know, and if it's 1,000 today, why can't it be 2,000 tomorrow and 3,000 the next day?
Generation, you know, I'm the second. My boys, I'm proud of where they are. They're equally as passionate as I am to carry the business on. After we pass, I'd like to think that over the next, we have 2, 3 more generations continue, our grandchildren. You know, it's their wish, not by design. If they want to come in, if they don't, we'll have to, you know, import other people to run it. But we'd like to think the business is sustainable for the model and compete in the world, in Western worlds, and you know, we've got plenty of opportunities. You know, I'm an optimist. You have to be in this industry.